I was 6 years old, getting a drink of milk from the refrigerator in an apartment in New York City.
Ooh.
And there was some problem with the settings on the fridge that it was keeping the milk too cold, that when I poured it out and drank it, there were chips of frozen milk in the milk.
I call those milks.
And I was so disgusted by that I never drank milk again.
Well, that's weird. Give it a shot sometime when it's at the appropriate temperature.
Maybe I should.
It's not always like that.
Here's my tip for milk. If anybody listening to this needs a tip for milk, get the goddarn whole milk. Don't get the goddarn 2% milk. If you're going to get 2% milk and you're going to try to explain why, if you're going to try to, if you immediately are listening to this and you have a bunch of reasons jumping to the top of your mind as to why you get 2% or skim milk, I want you to wonder how many of those reasons are reasons you thought up just so you would have them ready right now. Ooh. Just take some calcium and magnesium supplements and drink some water. Be honest, it's cheaper. Like, if you want to drink milk, drink milk. If you want to put milk on your cereal, put milk on your cereal. I will say, I think almond milk is better on a lot of cereals than vitamin D whole milk. I think it is. As a cereal person, I live in Jerry Seinfeld's neighborhood, so I have to be a cereal person. I hate when I say almond milk and then somebody goes, "You mean vanilla?" It's like, no, you mean sweetened almond milk? No, the regular, just almond milk. If I meant candy flavored almond milk, I would say that. You know,
it is odd.
Most of my vegan friends have migrated to oat milk.
Yeah, oat milk is the one.
Oat milk is more sustainable.
As a non-vegan myself, and also as a mostly non-dairy person, I only very occasionally have any milk of any variety at all in my refrigerator, which again is not cold anyway. And I would go with almond milk because it's got really good numbers. And it's zero carb, it's low fat. It's got way more protein than regular milk does, believe it or not. So there's a lot of practical reasons to actually drink oat milk or not oat milk, almond milk. Mm-hmm. Whereas oat milk has some carbs and it's got some stuff in it that I don't think is necessarily as good. But I've had an almond milk cappuccino. And my first thoughts the first time I drank one was, next time I'm just getting a coffee. And,
this is Insert Credit, by the way. This is the show.
I've had some oat milk cappuccinos as well. And I will admit, not begrudgingly, because this is an interesting thing. Oat milk is a phenomenon that came about on this earth after I was 40 years old. I don't need to be begrudging anymore. I just say, I tried it. I tried an oat milk cappuccino. And it was pretty good. It was a lot better than an almond milk cappuccino. Almond milk don't steam right. I hate to get all what do you call it, beverage persnickety here on the show. But almond milk don't steam right. Whereas oat milk miraculously does. And that's why it's taking over, is because it became a sensation in the little coffee shops everywhere, just all around the country. Blue Bottle's got it. Starbucks has got it. You know, the bigger chains all have it, but it was in all the smaller ones. And it's like now it's branched out. It's in the stores. So people are putting it on cereal. It's just kind of become milk for a large number of people. And it's vegan. So whatever.
What kind of milk are you drinking, Brandon?
Whole.
Which whole? Kaboom.
Hey!
Oh! The answer is, of course, the cow udder hole, right?
Yes.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why it's called whole milk. Okay, I get it.
Is this actually the show?
Yeah. Why not?
Because I don't, well.
All right. I'll do my intro then.
if you like.
Well, I mean, realize it's pretty easy to just cut stuff around, Brandon, to just make a cut right here.
Such foul attaint may not be sublimed through gain standing. This is the Insert Credit Tofurtacular, a 12-course meal where the palate cleanser is a horrible buzzer. I'm Alex Jaffe, and this year I'm thankful for an inexhaustible supply of Yakuza.
I'm Frank Cifaldi, and
I'm Tim Rogers, and I got nothing for that. I'm sorry, I got nothing. There's no, I would rather not say.
There's no thankfulness in you?
No comment. No comment on my thankfulness this year. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to be cryptic on so innocent a question, but To make something up off the top of my head that is not the thing I wanted to say, but decided I didn't want to say, it would seem disingenuous and untrue. So thank you.
I'm Brandon Sheffield. I'm thankful for dogs, might as well say.
Oh, yeah, I got those.
They're pretty cool. I'm glad that we got our little new dog out of the shelter right before this respiratory illness started going around. And they had to actually close the shelter to new entrants and and people can't go adopt dogs because of this new illness that's going around.
Oh yeah,
you heard about this one, Tim?
Oh yeah, we've been talking.
Yeah.
About it.
So anyway, we freed her from the prison before that happened. So she's safe. So that's good news.
I'm happy to hear it.
Thankful for dogs.
My dogs eat they eat a turkey and macaroni with cranberries in it like every day. It's like their meal. So they just got Thanksgiving.
Every day is Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving
for your
on the
dogs.
brain.
Look at my little dog. This dog I've got in my hands right here. She's my good one because if I just say, come here, she just appears from the other room. I didn't even know where she was. I just whispered and she just showed up.
Pretty good.
So this week for this intimate family gathering, I've devised a little game.
Okay.
I've taken 4 questions that I've written and placed on the back burner for slow weeks. 4 questions from the Dirt Bag, where our patrons at patreon.com/insertcredit can submit their own questions. You have bonus episodes for just a few dollars a month. And 4 questions from our community at forums.insertcredit.com in the thread, insert credit flavored questions that are too stupid for the Dirt Bag. Your task this week is not only to answer these questions, but also figure out which questions came from me, which came from the forum, and which came from the Patreon.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fun.
And how does Topher figure in, or does he not?
Topher.
You said Tofurtacular.
I did say Tofurtacular.
I thought Topher Florence was going to be involved somehow.
No, it's our vegan Thanksgiving.
Tofurtacular,
Yeah.
Okay.
We actually
Threw me for a loop
got
there.
a tofurkey roast. We got one.
Nice.
It was only like $7 downstairs.
Tofurkey, I hope that they persist because with local business impossible taking over pretty much everywhere, I still like Tofurkey because it doesn't taste like meat at all.
Yeah, I was just talking to a guy about this yesterday. I had to do a very large, long work project that at the end of it, it took several months of working with this guy like every day. At the end of it, I was just like, well, I'm going to have a Thanksgiving dinner tomorrow, I think. And he's like, well, what are you having? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm a vegetarian, so maybe I'm going to get a tofurkey. And he's like, oh, I'm a vegetarian too. And I was like, oh, I didn't think so. I didn't figure you for a vegetarian is what I said, which is weird because he just seemed like too cool of a guy. So, and he was also too old, right? So it was like, you don't expect like an old, like tough looking dude to be a vegetarian, but he's like, yeah, I've been a vegetarian for like 40, 50 years, whatever. I'm like, okay. And we were talking about how Tofurkey's real good because Tofurkey makes a range of products. I think me and Brandon both enjoy several of their products.
Yes.
Some more than others, some less than others. But the Tofurkey namesake is a beef Wellington style puff pastry shell crust surrounding a tofu and then a filled with stuffing and grains and cranberries and stuff. And it's just a very nice, delightful thing in this world of increasingly meat-esque vegetarian food.
Yeah.
Local Oakland business impossible.
Berkeley, technically, but yeah.
Berkeley, they're in Berkeley. I thought they were like down near like the stadium.
I was surprised just recently to learn that they were from Berkeley. But it's possible that they've moved from a different location. Maybe they were in Oakland before.
Just not going to get off the record here or anything, but I talked to some impossible people back when I was living there, which I guess is before they really, for all intents and purposes, existed.
Yeah, before they made
but
it.
That impossible stuff is just unavoidable now.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
It's in every supermarket, every little corner market in New York. You can get a big old red blood dripping hamburger patty and shrink wrap. Very nice packaging, decent logo. The name Impossible, we've talked about this before. It sure is a lot better than the fake sort of weird hippie names that every other vegetarian food tried to have for
I was
years.
really sad when Beth left the supermarket. That's the for those who don't know,
Morningstar Farms, but
that's the fake beef that was spelled BE''F.
I really wish it was B''EF. We were just laughing at that on the Whole Foods website last night.
Friggin' Beff, but they don't have Beff at Safeway no more. So Beff.
Did you ever eat it?
No, of course not.
I'm not going to eat Beff.
I'm not eating Beff.
Kind of freak is going to eat Beff.
That's a Repo Man generic shopping center brand of a food. I'm not eating.
It
Beff.
sounds like an army ration sort of code name for a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't sound like a real food. I would, you know what? I'm going to say it. I would rather just eat real meat than eat something called Beff. Because at least I know the real meat's where it's been. You know, it's been on a factory farm with millions of other miserable genetically altered animals. Anyway, what do we got?
Yeah, let's open up the Thank Tank. Here's our first question.
The Thank Tank.
How would present-day video games be different if the concept of a sequel never existed?
Like a sequel as in what?
As in, there
You make
was
a
just
second
no
game.
cultural concept that a thing was followed by another iteration in that series.
Well, that's impossible.
No, you seem to know a lot about the intention of the asker of
yeah,
this
this
question.
is definitely a Jaffe question, but
Oh, you think so?
I do think
Oh,
so.
do you think so?
Oh no, we're not going to say no comments on that just yet.
Well, I think so.
But
I thought
that
so
was
from the start.
I try.
But I also think that that's impossible for the concept of a sequel to not exist. There's no way. Like a child is a sequel. We already know as part of our biology that you get a sequel.
It's basically what the word sequel means. Yeah.
Like it would be interesting if everything had to be original every time. But well, okay. If I tried to take this question seriously, I think it would mean dramatically more adaptations of things. So you'd like every comic has a movie, and Taylor Swift has a movie that's just called Taylor Swift and whatever. Because if we can't do sequels,
The Mission Impossible movies are just called Tom Cruise.
yeah, Tom Cruise. Tom's cruising. Because if you don't have sequels, you need some other surefire way to make money, and that's going to be known properties, I guess.
Yeah. I think, just thinking back in terms of the ancient video games, right? By the ancient video games, let's roll the clock all the way back to the Nintendo Entertainment System. No earlier than that, because some of those are too crusty even for me.
Yeah.
The Nintendo Entertainment System, around that time, Nintendo had so many games. They had your Balloon Fight, your Clue Land, Urban Champion,
They were trying
Popeye, based on Popeye, Donkey Kong, Mario Brothers, and Super Mario Brothers. None of those are sequels, None of those are sequels. Doki Doki Panic is not Super Mario Brothers 2, right?
Yeah.
Nintendo and Miyamoto, not only that, I forgot to mention Metroid, The Legend of Zelda, Kid Icarus. All of those games, all of those franchises that whenever Nintendo has a Nintendo Direct, there are people in the chat being like, please announce a sequel to blank, right? All of the games that fill that blank came into existence in like 1-2 year span. So what would video games be like if the concept of sequels never existed? I don't know. Probably real good. And also we probably there would never be anybody in the chat asking for a sequel to something because they would just know what it's like to live amidst an embarrassment of riches.
They want a new Nintendo.
Yeah, they would say new game from this developer, please.
Yeah. I want a new game from the people who made Kid Icarus, please.
Yeah.
Here's another thing that might happen. There's these games that have a mechanical or ideological lineage. That Fox game on the Master System, and then Decap Attack, and that Magical Hat game, and those are all basically the same type of game with the same guy who loves these floaty jumps and wiggly platforms, but they're all totally different, unique games, and none of them are sequels to each other.
Yeah. You know what else it would be like? It would be like the Wonder Boy series.
Yeah,
the Wonder Boy
exactly.
series does not rely on the concept of sequels because those games are all weirdly different enough and disjointed enough. It's a spaghetti of game names. Another like Brave Fencer Musashi and Dew Prism, Threads of Fate, Dew Prism, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. Those are mechanical sequels where it's same people made it. They further advanced the graphics technology they developed for Brave Fencer Musashi and made it even more sparkly for Threads of Fate. And it's just you play it and they feel kindred somehow. And I feel like that sort of thing, it was the sort of joie de vivre that cool people latched onto during the Saturn and PlayStation era anyway, was I want to play another game that's kind of like this game. And it's like, oh, that's just made by the same people. Yu Suzuki made Space Harrier, Afterburner, Outrun, right? That's a guy just making a whole bunch of cool games about cool stuff. I mean, they all had sequels, sure. But let's not worry about that. I don't know. Games would be cool.
So who are you putting that down as? Is that me? Is that the forum? Or is
that's you.
The dirtbag? Tim?
I mean, are you going to tell us right away? Or are you going to do it as a reveal at the end?
How would you prefer it? I was going to do it after each question.
I think after each question is good for me.
Oh, that would make it theoretically like easier to guess as we go along, and it would also make us think about it a little bit more.
I'm going to let you know right now.
We didn't guess though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm guessing Jaffe myself. Although based on the way you started saying that one doesn't sound like you.
I could have been saying that one was me. That one was a Jaffe original.
But I still think it's Jaffe. I'm going with Jaffe.
I don't even really care.
Please pretend to play the game.
Give it a shot. Throw a dart.
Yeah, I have trouble doing that.
I know.
I have trouble doing that sort of thing because I usually like to research and know stuff.
Yeah.
And you're basically asking me to just say something that has like a 66% chance of being wrong, and then that just makes us
I don't care about
that
being
just turns
wrong,
this into any other podcast where they're just a bunch of dudes saying stuff that's wrong all the time.
There's educated guessing.
So wait, what's what are the three options? There's the dirtbag, there's Jaffe, and then what's this other option?
There's on the forum, forums.insertcredit.com. There's a thread of questions that are too stupid to submit to the dirtbag.
Oh, that doesn't. Well, are they like really, really stupid questions?
Sometimes
People
think so.
Okay, but I mean, okay, so
it's the ones they're ashamed to put in the dirtbag.
I'll just say it's a Jaffe question. Who cares?
That's a forum question. MDSO2 submitted that.
That doesn't sound. I mean, I guess these people. I don't want to sound too much like a football coach or a Boy Scout leader or anything, but people need to have a little bit more self-confidence.
I agree.
Before they jump into let's just call it what it is. I haven't seen this forum thread, but I assume it's like the internet equivalent of like an above ground swimming pool in like an Oklahoma backyard.
That wasn't in the too stupid for the dirtbag. That was a regular. Please ask this question.
No, it wasn't.
Just to be
clear, it was in the too stupid one.
It was. Yeah, he said the forum. Because the dirtbag's not the forum, right?
Oh, that's right. I suppose it's not.
The dirtbag is Patreon?
Yeah, that's Patreon.
God, how do you even log into Patreon? I don't even know.
It's a nightmare.
It's difficult.
Here's our next one.
I've had too much identity theft. They keep shutting mine down. I've had a couple successful identity theft attempts.
That's not what you want.
On it this year. It's real bad.
How do you keep enemy encounters from feeling repetitive?
Oh, well,
new enemies.
I mean, the people at patreon.com haven't figured it out. as regards the way they deal with attempted identity thefts, which is shut my account down and not let me talk to anybody for a couple months, and not say they're going to call me on the phone, but then not call me on the phone. I got to take my phone off silent mode to wait for a Patreon person to call, and then I end up getting like 42 robocalls in 3 minutes. Don't like it. How do you keep enemy accounts from feeling repetitive? You make them nice and fast.
Oh, yeah. Fast is a good way.
Speed them up.
I'm
going to say it's not enough to just be fast. My two keywords I like to give anyone who, if I'm playing their video game that has a lot of like combat and enemy encounters, I use the keywords hard and fast. Hard doesn't mean difficult. It means the hits should look hard. Even if you're, and you know, I gave this advice to somebody who was making a turn-based RPG of a sort. I was like, you should make the hits look harder, and you should make the animations faster. And they were like, oh, I don't want them to look harder. It would look too aggressive. And I'm like, maybe figure it out. God darn it. Hard and fast. Make the turns like, if I choose fight, make my guy hit the god darn guy. You know? Like in the old Fire Emblems. You know?
Mm-hmm. I understand that. I also think... in addition to hard and fast, give the player, I mean, it's got to look and feel real cool, so the thing you're doing has to feel cool, but also give the player maybe 2 or 3 choices, but not too many.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think about Gunstar Heroes, you're just shooting guys the whole time, but you can change your weapon a little bit and
jump
you can
kick them.
jump
throw
kick them
'em.
instead. And it's not, you don't have a huge bag of tricks, but you can look at a situation and be like, maybe I'll do this.
The game itself is the huge bag of tricks.
Yeah, exactly. So just do that. Just do that. Just make guns.
In the case of enemy encounters, how do you make enemy encounters feel less repetitive? Is a question I recall being oft asked over the years in video game spaces by fans of the Japanese role-playing game genre when discussing which RPG has better encounters and which one doesn't. And I think for the widest variety, the widest possible portion of the suckers born every minute, you can make JRPG encounters feel less repetitive. My opinion is so hot, it's literally on fire here. It's why the fire department is showing up. You can, for the widest variety of the suckers born every minute regarding JRPG conversation on the internet over the last 25 years or so, you can make enemy encounters feel a lot less repetitive if you just make the enemies visible on the map, like in Chrono Trigger. Even if they're completely unavoidable and the battle's going to happen every time, just make the enemy visible on the map, and it's so great. It's so much better than Dragon Quest. It's so much better than Final Fantasy, is what they'll say. You'll get people to this day. I've seen that opinion exhumed and regurgitated to this day. I see people bring that sort of thing back up. I wish they'd just do it like Chrono Trigger did, talking about RPGs. Come on.
Yeah, I think even Pokemon has that plausible deniability of like the tall grass. There could be a Pokemon
I think that
around here.
I think Pokemon is surprisingly very nicely elegant way. But I still feel annoyed at enemies in Pokemon sometimes.
It's true, but
when I'm just going through the tall grass.
At first, you want to encounter enemies, which is an unusual thing about Pokemon. You're trying to collect them, so you're like, I need this guy to show up.
And I also think my fallback solution, my fallback answer to this question: animation's hard and fast. Your artist has to find a way to make the hard and fast animations also look cool. And you have a couple of choices the player can make. We're talking a turn-based RPG now, kind of strictly. And my fallback answer is just always look at Dragon Quest and look at Dragon Quest's auto battle. The auto battle in Dragon Quest is so wonderful because you can turn it on and then you can turn it off, right? Turn it on for a couple of turns and watch your guys go, smoke some weed, drink some tea, you know? And then you're like, this enemy's doing this, and you just press the casual press of the audible button, and then when the turn ends, it brings the menu back up and lets you recalibrate your tactics, and then you go right back smoking your weed, drinking your coffee.
I want to add one little thing because the tough thing I found with doing a turn-based tactics RPG is you got to have the hard and fast attacks. You got to have it look interesting, but it can't take so much time that by the time you've been doing it for 10 hours, you're tired of seeing it again.
Yeah.
So it's got to go from cool to ignorable instead of cool to annoying. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that was a Patreon question.
Tim?
I mean, that sounded like a Patreon question too, I would say.
That was me.
That was you. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Man.
All right.
So I want to just say the reason why there's so much random battles are boring conversation out in the world, the reason for that is because Final Fantasy VII was very popular. And it was popular among people who'd never played JRPGs.
Oh, yeah.
People like me were idiots goblinized. We didn't mind random battles at all. It was just part of what we played. We enjoyed, if you've played a Dragon Quest all the way to the end, you've probably learned how to enjoy a turn-based battle system. But what Final Fantasy VII brung to the table was really, 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 really long, slow combat, battle, magic spell, summon animations that every game saw fit to copy, which just completely fatigued anyone pre-inclined.
Everyone took the wrong lesson there.
Yeah. So that's why they feel so repetitive. It's Final Fantasy VII's fault.
Makes sense. You see the same thing in comics, people learning the wrong things from these really popular...
Like bolding random words.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the bolding of words drives me bonko.
I can't
What's the best
it.
law to break in a video game?
Oh, this
Let's ask
question
Cliffy
from
B.
special
LOL.
guest Cliffy B.
Yeah. Sorry.
Lawbreakers was good, dude.
Yeah, it was all right.
I had a good time with that game. It's the best law to break.
Yeah.
Well, you really should have to pass a rigorous exam. You should have to pass multiple like GRE level exams to be allowed to have a fourth wall break in your video game.
That's true.
So I think that's not the best one to break. Having games that become self-referential. Having games where the villain at the end tells you how many people did you kill to get here, Nathan Drake, right?
Yeah.
They pull that off twice in the Uncharted franchise alone, which is very funny.
Pull it off is
pull
not
it off.
necessarily what they did.
They pull it over, I guess.
They pulled it over, exactly.
Yeah. So it's not that one. I mean, what are some laws of video games that we throw out here? What are some laws?
Murder.
Jump. Oh, wait. You mean like laws
legal
to break?
laws?
You don't mean like laws of game design or laws of making video games?
I see.
I suppose it's open to interpretation.
It appears to be. Yeah, I didn't get the legal laws either. So like embezzlement or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that's a very good law to break in video games, unless you're like an Animal Cross player.
Yeah, God, Tom Nook is breaking the human law in those games.
It's true.
He's a landlord, but he's funny.
Well, I mean, murder is the main one that we break in video games all the time.
Assault at the very least.
Yes.
I mean, one of the most common, like normal, least boring laws to break in a video game is speeding in an automobile.
Yeah, that's true. That's always fun.
Driving real fast, getting it so, like in Cyberpunk, if you come off the top of a hill, they tweaked the vehicle physics so it feels nicer now. Your car can just kind of like fly over like 8 cars just going down the hill, and it's kind of pleasant. You're just kind of speeding around, blowing through lights.
Base wars. You're not supposed to fight in baseball, and that's the only part of that game anyone wants to do.
Base wars kind of sucks.
It does.
Yeah,
it does. I was all ready for it to be cool, but I was 8, so what did I know?
It turns out that if you want to make a baseball game that's good, you just kind of try to make one that's good.
And yet, one law they haven't broken is I don't think there's ever been a baseball game with crying.
That's right.
No crying in baseball.
No, you can't do that. Here's a interesting little aside, which is someone on the old Blue Sky was asking if anyone could think of the most popular game console that doesn't have a baseball game. They're like, is the Jaguar the most popular game console without a baseball game?
Shoot.
Because like the Virtual Boy has a baseball game, even
sure does.
Out of 22 games, it's got a baseball game. But I came up with one kind of, which is if we're only considering boxed products, the
Xbox,
Wii U
right?
does not have a baseball game. There's like in Deca Sports, there's baseball, but it isn't a baseball game per se. The only baseball game I could find on the Wii U is a downloadable game that Arc System Works did, which is wild.
Yeah.
The Wii U has like 700 something games.
No physical baseball games.
No physical baseball.
That's interesting. I mean, I know that in America at least, only one baseball game exists anymore, and that's MLB, the show made by Sony in San Diego. So it's a PlayStation product that until last year was just for a period of years was exclusive to PlayStation, and they actually currently, I think we talked about this before, but it's available on Xbox now. So there's one Sony Computer Entertainment game you can buy on the Xbox, which proves that particular law, the laws of console warfare, can be broken.
That's a good law to break.
Releasing a Sony Computer Entertainment game for Xbox, that's the kind of law I like to see broken with video games.
Yeah, put that Spider-Man 2 on the Xbox.
An actual PlayStation Studios. Man, if only there
on
were
the PlayStation, I forget.
Only there were 2 Spider-Man 2s available for Xbox.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
That's time.
Yeah, there was that time when I think it was Nighthawk Interactive. They put a baseball game out on the Switch, and it sold like gangbusters. And I was like, "What the heck? It's just like a baseball game." The reason was no one had made one yet, and the Switch had been out for like a year and a half, 2 years. It's wild stuff.
Brandon, if you ever want if you ever find yourself lacking inspiration in any kind of a creative direction involving any user interface or user experience, I'll give you my tip that I have leaned on for the last 8 years or so. I've been all about those Power Pro Yaku games for the original PlayStation. They are the best looking, feeling products that have ever existed in video games in terms of the menus and the interfaces. I always look at that stuff and marvel at it. They're just gorgeous, gorgeous looking games.
I'll give it a look.
I thought you were going to tell them to make gangbusters because those always sell.
Oh, yeah, they do always sell like gangbusters.
Yeah, similar to them.
Who asked that one?
Who asked
You
that
want
one?
to see some menus, dude. Yeah, who asked that one? The best laws to break in video games?
I feel like that's a too stupid for the dirtbag one.
The kind of person who asked that question does not strike me as the kind of person who thinks it's a stupid question.
Okay.
So you think it's from the dirtbag?
He thinks it's from you think the Patreon, Tim?
Jaffe, no.
It's true. Jaffe knew the what it was supposed to mean.
Or am I bluffing?
Jaffe did immediately say, you mean like murder?
Yeah. So that's a good indicator right there for sure. I guess, yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I'm going to stick with mine even though I think that you're right, and you're going with Jaffe.
It's just a cornucopia of fool's errands so that you've flopped down onto the Thanksgiving table here. The thanks sack!
Both wrong again. That one's from the Patreon.
Oh,
heck.
And wait, that's what I was gonna say though.
No, you were suggesting it was me.
No, I was not suggesting it was you. I said it's the sort of question that a person would ask who.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter. Who I don't care.
Okay.
I was going to narrow the things down one at a time.
It did seem like you were going toward Patreon originally. So
yeah, I was going to.
You give it to him.
We'll give you the point.
I was knocking down the forum one, and then I was going to move on to Jaffe knew something about it, but I think he was wrong, is what I was going to say. I think you were wrong about what the person was asking.
I'll put that on me for rushing you.
That's this is a good place to pause a moment and point out if you're submitting Jaffe a question on Patreon, you could be a little more specific if you'd like. We don't mind hearing a couple extra words when it comes time to answer a question. We don't mind hearing a couple extra words, right? Right?
It's true.
I don't mind 10, 20 more words.
Although sometimes I'll trim the question if I think it's more interesting without some of those specifics.
I feel like that was not the case with that question.
Not the case here, no.
Yeah, I feel like I think you can go up to 30 words with a question and have it be really, that's about the sweet spot.
30 words is right.
Yeah, something like 30 words.
Here's our next one. What is the best jump noise in video games?
Boing.
And is it better on button press like in Mario or on landing like in Mega Man?
Oh, it's both.
It does depend.
You want to have both.
It's hard not to like the boing in Mario, I gotta say.
The original Mario boing. I actually think
Mario boing.
So I think the Mario 3 boing, which is it's a refined version. I think that's better. I know that there's you were drawing a big old line in the sand when you even mentioned Super Mario World and Super Mario Brothers 3 in the same sentence, I guess, because apparently, oceans are now battlefields and whatnot. The whole world social media is a battlefield, and you can't talk about liking something without starting an argument about the other thing. So I've noticed that in the last 10 years, it's impossible to say a nice thing about either one of those games without someone assuming you're saying a horrible thing about the other ones. So I'm just going to say, and it sounds snippy, I like the jumping sound in Super Mario World. It's neat. It was bold of them to make a completely different jumping sound. Like, it's totally different, and it's so not what you expect. It's wild how different it is. If you were not a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old when you first played Super Mario World after playing Mario games for the most significant chunk of your conscious life as a human on Earth, you won't understand how huge of a mind blow it was to fire up Super Mario World on your TV and hear the jump sound completely different. Just completely different. It was just wild how different it was. It's just that little ooh sound. It's weird.
I do remember being flummoxed by that 1-1 world with the Rexes that you had to jump on twice. Yeah.
A novel concept. Jump on them once, and you can bounce off and jump on them again. They're still alive. They don't get too convincingly more desperate when you jump on them the one time. And you also feel really sorry for them because it's a little grotesque that they collapse like that. It's
telling that they're not really in the rest of the game after that first level.
Yeah. Very, very proof of concept-y creature.
I also like when the jump sound is a little annoying, but not in a way that actually annoys me. Like in Breath of the Wild when he's just going, hup, hup,
oh, yeah. Well, that also has excellent Foley sounds when his feet hit the ground, too.
Yes.
It's true. But
Good
it
landing noises.
just had me going, hup, hup, around my house, which I think that's it's like an earwormy sound or whatever. I don't know, but not in a way that annoyed me. So I'm in favor.
So personally, I think the best jump sounds kind of don't necessarily 100% exist in terms of like button up or landing or the button down. Like, so I know Mario's jump sound is on button down, and I know that Mario is button down is a game design term. If you're unfamiliar, it means that the
Isn't
action,
it on the half press? That's a joke.
It means the action happens when the player presses the button, not when a button up action is when you let go of the button, it performs. If you equip yourself with that and play a bunch of retro video games and start sifting through which games do which things at which times for which actions, you might have yourself an interesting little exploratory game design excursion. But I feel like the best jumping sounds happen on button down. But then I know that Mario there's a million little secret things baked into Super Mario Brothers 1, one of which is that you hold the jump button down to jump further. There's like a whole page in the instruction manual about it. And it's like you hold the jump button down, and I feel like why can't that also affect the jumping noise, right? I feel like
elongate it.
Yeah, elongate it just ever so slightly. I'm not talking like make it 10 times. Yeah, it doesn't have to go wild, but I feel like you could kind of just taste it a bit. I gotta say, Sonic's jumping noise is one of the better sound effects in all of Sonic 2. I think, or in all Sonic the Hedgehog in general, not Sonic 2. I think Sonic a lot of the Sonic sounds, I've said this before on this very podcast and gotten someone very angry at me.
Really?
I've said this, that the Sonic ring sound effect is awful, that it's too loud, it's too tinny, it's too cutting, it just blasts through the mix, it just sprays diarrhea all over the perfect music, and I think it's just an awful sound. It's like clipping, and it's just
clipping a little.
Yeah, it's a bad sound effect. So compared to that, the jumping sound is pretty tasty.
Yeah,
it's a very subtle little sound.
Who asked that one?
So it wasn't phrased like a Jaffe question, so that makes me feel like it's a Patreon question. But it did feel like a Jaffe question, even though it wasn't phrased like one. So I'm sticking with Patreon, but I'm a little confuzzled.
I'd smoke Patreon for that one. Why not? I don't know.
That one's the forums from our moderator Antelise.
So that's another one people think is too stupid?
That's not a stupid question
That's not a stupid question at all. I have a little more... You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that these people are too cheap to pay for the dirtbag. And they want to sneak these questions in without paying. And that's what's going on over here. They're trying to pull one over on old Jaffe. And they've succeeded.
I would just actively discourage such conversation in a public forum. They're like, no, you can't talk about this here, because if this ends up on the show for free,
move it to the Patreon. Give us $1. When do you think you've had the worst first impression of a game or franchise due to circumstances not necessarily the game or series' fault?
Oh, that's Patreon.
Well, I would say
we'll make a formal guess later.
I sure didn't want to play the Witness because I had enough interactions with John Blow at that point. There's a lot of those where it's like, I don't want to play those games Elon Musk worked on.
Right.
Oh yeah. Kind of a testament to just how good like Elden Ring is. That even after he tweeted about it, I was like, Elden Ring still rules, dude.
What if the Elon Musk games are really good? Like, how would we even know?
He's not like, he wasn't like a design director or anything. He was just like a worker drone.
So maybe they're good.
They could be.
Yeah, could be. I mean,
but I did have a bad first impression of them, knowing they exist. Yeah. So it answers the question.
So the question is, when did you have the worst bad first impression of a game that wasn't the game's fault?
Yeah.
Okay. Just thinking. I don't know. I have again, as a notorious super taster of video game media who has had to practice many techniques for publicly expressing sometimes exaggerated enthusiasm for a thing as a self-preservation instinct. I can say that I get real turned off by a lot of stuff I see in games that I then just play anyway. And I feel like I'm not going to enjoy this. And then, I find something to enjoy. So I don't know. It wasn't the game's fault. I feel like there was I don't want to like name names or anything, but there was an indie RPG somewhat recently where the developers were from a not English speaking country and they saw fit to write their game in English, which is fine. But they learned how to use commas from like 12-year-old girls' Facebook posts or whatever. And their commas were just completely belligerently insane to look at. And I saw like one screenshot and I was like, holy Lord. And I still haven't touched that game with a 14-foot pole, even though it's like exactly the sort of thing I would like.
Yeah, I've played some unproofed English as a second language games, and it feels like it should be an artifact of like the 16-bit era, but it's still happening.
And when you've got a publisher who's like valuated at over $1 billion, I think you could get a pass, like somebody to go over it.
Yeah.
I would never say don't write in your second language because,
No, but get a proofer.
One need look only at the likes of Joseph Conrad and Vladimir Nabokov, who spoke English natively for a longer period of time than Joseph Conrad. But let's, one need look only at some great literature to know that writing in your second language can be tasty.
If you're writing in your first language, you should get a proof.
But yeah, those goddamn, like, oh my God, my brain is just shattering thinking about it. It's just like, my God, like, it's not that hard, man. Like, read a paragraph of a book.
Yeah.
Just pick a book. Just pick a book and open it up and look, see how they use it. Are they putting it there? No.
Maybe you shouldn't either.
The one thing is, I mean, I know enough German to know they don't even do this in German. There's a period. You just end, that's the end of a sentence. You don't just put together like 4 sentences with commas. You just put a period and then a capital letter. It's easy. I'm going to go to the store. Do you want anything? That's 2 sentences. like, come on. I'm going to go to the store. Do you want anything? I'm going to go to the store. Do you want anything? Like, which one of those sounds right? Like, is the person you're talking to's name, do you want anything? And you're asking them if you are going to the store? You don't even have to read Elements of Style. Like, just like, come on.
Think about it for 2 seconds.
Yeah, we don't need to god darn get Strunk and White's poltergeists up in here. we don't, I mean, it's just,
Who wrote this one?
The answer is definitely is the Jonathan Blow one, though. So
yeah, Brandon nailed it. Who wrote this one?
I think Brandon's Jonathan Blow opinion also applies to whatever the next game it is that Jonathan Blow is going to make.
It's true.
Man, Minecraft, dude.
Yeah,
Minecraft.
I thought that Notch guy sucked before he was like saying Nazi stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are we talking about? Who wrote that one?
Yeah.
Who cares? That's a Patreon question.
I'm saying the dirtbag forums.
That's a Jaffe.
That's a Jaffe.
Okay.
Yeah, I figured.
Well, we're all wrong.
Well, the people on the Patreon seem to write questions that are questions like you would write.
It's true.
That's how they get on there.
Yeah.
The ones I pick are the ones that are like, that sounds like something I'd ask.
Yeah. Again, a cornucopia of fool's errands.
It sure is. Question 6. What kind of video game cartridge or disc would you like to eat the most?
No. That's too stupid for the dirtbag.
Yes, it's true.
Which type of video game cartridge or a disc would you like?
I don't want to eat anything.
Obviously, they're all stupid, and they're all don't have any nutritional value. But I think a salad of vegetables, right? Delicious fresh vegetables, and then like slightly like boiled, like slightly melted GameCube discs would be nice because they're like small. They're like the size of a sort of a radish slice or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could serve quite a tasty salad with like melted like floppy GameCube discs all over it. And then obviously you would die if you ate it, but
yeah, you're picking your death.
The rounded edges of the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 discs, or is it just 5? I forget. But those rounded edges on those discs are nice. I don't want to eat them.
God, I don't own any PlayStation 5 discs.
Well, I got a couple. Check one out for those rounded edges. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, maybe I will.
It's a different feeling.
Well, I mean, I went all in on digital before the worst case scenario just started happening all over the place, where streaming services start deleting stuff, right?
Yeah.
Even Apple TV, iTunes, they start deleting movies. You bought it a couple years ago? Yeah, you don't have it anymore, man. I'm sorry.
Just getting rid of
and
them.
it's like, oh, that's going to start happening with video games big time. Everybody got mad about Xbox proudly declaring that the Xbox One is going to require an always online connection so much that the PlayStation 4 destroyed them. But then it just happened with every console anyway.
Yeah. They shouldn't have announced it proudly. That was the problem. They should have been very embarrassed about it.
Yeah. I mean, because then PlayStation did it. Like, I mean, what the heck? Man, it kind of makes PlayStation seem, who cares? Is this Console War Boys, the podcast here?
I need a Hue card.
Yeah, well, those actually look like they would be like, you could put them on a s'more, right? You could melt some chocolate and some graham crackers and put them on there.
Uh-huh.
They would be the marshmallow component in a vegetarian s'more.
I'm looking to see which console has the smallest game cartridges, and it might be the Vita.
It's the Vita, yeah. I believe so.
Is it smaller than the Switch cartridge? I guess it's
I think
thinner.
by 1 millimeter, it's smaller.
It's thinner.
Yeah. The Switch cartridges are the ones everybody tried to eat because they were coated in a chemical that made them taste bad. So I'm going to taste it for this new website called TikTok, which I don't think existed at that point.
So if you want to eat a Switch cartridge, but you don't want to taste the Switch cartridge, then the Vita is your best option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's landfills full of Vita cartridges as well. So it's just they made the games too small. We need to go back to the era of the NES where the cartridge was enormous because half of it was empty. We need to go back to that.
Man, I love the Hue card. I think it's a great size. And I've said this before, but it blew my mind when I found out that like 70% of that cartridge is extra over much, and you don't need it.
That's actually that's actually really thoughtful design though, because it fits flush with the console, and it allows the makers of the console to put the goddarn sensitive connectors deeper into the console where they are not exposed to air and stuff. It's very smart, right?
No, I love it. I think it's one of the best designed video game products.
You never have to blow on the inside of your PC engine, do you?
No.
Right? So there you have it.
No moving parts.
Does that make it safer to eat? Like, I don't know.
I don't think safety is a concern here.
Yeah, I think you probably break your teeth on a Who card though, because I call them Who cards.
Might as well.
I call them Who cards. I think you break your teeth on them because they're probably really densely circuit packed. I still think you melt a GameCube disc, and I think they're made of bioplastics. I'm not sure. Heat isn't an issue with a GameCube disc. I don't think you can melt a PS5 disc. I think you'd have to blast it like in an oven on self-clean, probably.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so I think this one's the forum. This one's got to be someone thought this was too stupid.
Yeah, I would guess forums. Yeah,
you're both right.
Yeah, if you didn't think this was too stupid, you should be ashamed of yourself, but you did. So I was just going to say that I saw something about how the PlayStation 5's optical disc drive can be turned off remotely via the internet if Sony ever decides to.
Jesus.
So there's some sort of kill switch in there where they can just brick your disc drive remotely.
That should be the plot of the Newborn Identity, I feel, is what that.
No, it's probably going to be the plot of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2. Right. The first part of which was about a godlike AI. They're not calling it Dead Reckoning Part 2. They said they're changing the title.
Really?
To Dad Reckoning?
We don't know what they're calling it now. I don't think they're calling it that because I don't think there's any kind of a father.
They got to bring John Woo back.
Does that mean they're retroactively changing the title of the first one to Dead Reckoning?
Just Dead Reckoning, yeah. Not the first time they've changed the name of a Tom Cruise movie.
Certainly not.
Yeah,
I don't even know what that Live, Die, Repeat movie is called at this point.
It's called Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, so they put them all in there.
Yeah, because there were too many people who knew it as Edge of Tomorrow.
I mean, I always knew it as all you need is
kill. Yeah. That's the.
I saw that movie in theaters. I liked it.
Yeah.
I like that movie. Yeah, I like that movie a lot.
One.
Yeah, Tom Cruise makes a good one.
Well, you know what? Before our next question, why don't we take a break?
Take a break, I say.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna see what these dogs are barking about.
Oh well, probably about being dogs.
That's probably one of the main things.
It's what dogs bark about. Welcome back to Insert Credit. It's time to go back to the thank sack.
The thank sack.
Here's our next question. What can the U.S. healthcare system learn from healthcare in video games?
Oh, well, the Pokemon Center, obviously. Veterinary care should be free.
Mm-hmm.
It should be in the center of every city, and it should be immediate.
Yeah.
There should be no lines.
And they should hope to see you again soon.
And it should have a really good jingle. And the lady behind the counter should not judge you at all for your pet being grievously injured. Make no judgments and simply say she hopes it happens again. Whatever it was, I hope it happens again. I think that's something.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, why aren't there jingles at the hospital?
Oh, Brandon, I think we found us a guy who's never been to Japan here.
That's right.
There's jingles. There's jingles in unexpected places in Japan. It's kind of their whole thing. And there's occasionally you'll go in the front door of a building, unexpectulous of a jingle to occur, and then you hear some bespoke arrangement of tasty notes. And you're like, oh, did they perhaps pay
Try going to an elevator in Korea and see if you can avoid a jingle.
Gotta keep those composers employed.
I remember my first time in Korea in 2003. I remember being like, these jingles suck. And then in like 2015, I was like, these jingles rule.
Yeah, they got a lot better.
It's like, they got like, I think they got like better than Japan in some places.
Mhm.
Like, I remember being in Korea and I get to my friend's house and we turn on her TV and it's like a Samsung TV and it makes a little musical tune when it starts up and it's like a CRT. And I'm like, God, that sounds so bad. It's so dinky. And then, 12 years later, it's like they're just cutting edge as heck.
The most popular music in the world is coming from Korea now. Maybe that's reflected in their jingle.
Yeah, they taste it up over there.
My friend Dami Lee, with whom I made comics for a while, she did a comic about, it was somebody asking her what her favorite song is, and she's like, well, it's the song that my rice cooker plays when the rice is done.
Oh, yeah. I don't like when my Instant Pot makes a little... It plays a little scale when you open it up. It goes do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do-do. When you open it and when you close it. I don't like that.
Yeah.
It's like write a song or don't, pinch the loaf or get off the pot, is what I would say. The Instant Pot.
Other things the healthcare system could learn, there should be random health pickups around, and when you take them, you pick them up and then you're just healed.
Oh, first aid kit dead drops.
I also like
in trash cans and such.
In for example, in your Call of Duties, you take damage, your vision gets red for a little while, but then later you're better.
Yeah, that would be nice if I could just crouch behind my fridge.
Just hide behind a bale of hay for long enough and you're okay.
Yeah.
Shoot. I really don't like when the vision gets all red in the video game.
Oh, I don't like
die.
You're already taking damage and then it's punishing you with declining vision on top of it.
Yeah, I know. The game gets harder when you're in a more difficult situation. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Do something else, guys. Also, black and white, don't like that as a person with some contrast problems. As a person who has had a retina inflammation before when I was 25, scariest thing in my life, I don't like being reminded of that when I'm playing Control, which has the most aggressive, insane red veins on the corners of the screen.
Yeah.
Especially when the battlegrounds in that game tend to be very red. And I was like, all I want is an option to turn that off.
It's very strange that became normalized as like, this is how we're going to represent this. I don't think anybody likes it.
Is that a Gears of War innovation?
No, Gears of War had what was called the Crimson Omen, is what they...
Yeah.
It was a gear in the middle of the screen with a skull, and it increased in saturation as you neared death. And it actually made it like easier to sight the center of the screen. So it actually had... It wasn't like necessarily geared around that function, but it did actually kind of have a function of giving you something to center your vision on the screen. But I was completely mind blown, and I was so outspoken about how much I hated the red eye veins effect in Control that I could not believe when I saw a much, much, much worse version of it during the very first boss battle of Alan Wake 2.
Ooh.
I was like, come on. And it's like, it's big, giant red veins that reach basically to the middle of the screen. The screen is going black and white and desaturated. And it's just like, do you just want me to like die in this boss battle?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what happened, of course.
That's time. Who wrote that one?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. That could be anybody.
The Pokemon answer was right, I guess, right?
Yeah. That was the right answer.
I'm going to say Jaffe. I'm saying Jaffe.
Interesting.
I'll say Jaffe as well. Let's do it.
That's from the Dirtbag. That's
Oh,
cool.
that sounds like a classic dirtbag.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to just say that one thing that the healthcare industry should not learn from video games is any of what happens in the classic game Pregnant Elsa Dies at Dentist.
That's right.
None of what's in there, Carl.
It had to come up. And
Don't do it. None of what's in there.
Very important.
Charles. Don't do it, Charles.
What are the greatest non-corporate rivalries in video games?
Well, Mario and Sonic is as corporate as they get, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think despite it being, well, I would say Daigo and Justin Wong
Oh, that's a good one.
is a really good one because you got your moment 23 where Daigo parries all the 17 or however many it is hits of the
72 million.
Chun-Li's super. Pretty good. And then they fought again later, and it honestly doesn't matter because that initial moment was so good. And that rivalry has bled out into other people like doing stuff against Justin Wong, feel like they want to do that same thing. So yeah, I like that one. That's a good rivalry.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah, that's a good one.
that's a good rivalry.
Other rivalries.
I had something to say about that one that I had to not say because I don't want to reveal something interesting that I'm working on in the future.
Okay.
That's fair. Maybe Kiryu and Majima?
Those guys.
Yeah.
Here's another fun rivalry, which is also a fighting game. It's Sonic Fox and the random people that challenge him through insulting him, and they're like, "You're not even good. There's nothing like I could defeat you easily, etc." And then
They get smoked.
they just get absolutely destroyed. Yeah,
They get smoked like a
They just
pack of
get
cools.
blasted.
Another good video game rivalry is rival schools united by fate. Somebody was
It's
going to
true.
say that, so
Yeah.
there it is.
yeah, I like that one.
Non-corporate rivalries. Call of Duty gamers versus Battlefield players.
Cloud and Sephiroth is definitely a corporate rivalry.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
he's-
that's true.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, the
Another-
Shinra Corporation.
hmm
Yeah, but I mean, Sephiroth's not like he's not friends with the Shinra Corporation either.
I guess
The
that's
Shinra
true.
Corporation is kind of the loser middleman. Those
Mhm.
punks, those nimrods.
Isn't an anti-corporate rivalry still a corporate rivalry in that it defines itself by a corporation?
Yeah, a corporation can't leave the question. Well, I mean,
Uh,
Sephiroth is so far above the corporation, though, in terms of his power and influence. And it's the Shinra Corporation is trying to grapple with the power of an unstoppable force, Sephiroth, whilst dealing with these other people, Avalanche, who have gotten involved for reasons that gradually become personal. It's actually a well-structured conflict for a piece of fiction. Good job, guys, back in 1997.
Dante versus his own Inferno.
Oh yeah, Dante and Virgil from the rivalries.
I wish that without corporate, I would put Capcom versus SNK because all those games they made are really fun. But
Yeah,
unfortunately, they're
No, they're two companies against each
two
other.
companies against each other. You just can't do it.
Marvel versus Capcom's also.
Yep.
You know, we didn't necessarily think of Marvel as a corporation back then as much as we do now. If you know
Yeah,
what I
it
mean.
felt more like a concept at that
Yeah,
time.
felt more like a fun thing. You
A
remember
baseball
this?
team.
Yeah.
2009 changed that.
Oh, it all went up in smoke,
Mm-hmm.
and everything sucks now.
I'm haunted by the fact a friend of mine at the time, who I don't speak to anymore, told me once
Blasted.
in 2010, I believe, that like if the world had to be run by one corporation, I would want it to be Disney.
So,
And I was like, I don't have a better answer for that hypothetical, but why even pose it?
Yeah.
yeah,
Why even pose it? And the question of why even pose it is why you became the question asker.
well, the question of why even pose it is why you became the question asker. Is you were thinking about how much you love this thing and ended up at the worst possible destination, which is I'd let them run the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. For example, if you think a girl is hot, right? The end point, like the final question you ask yourself is if you would let her kill you.
Yeah.
That's basically, and if the answer to it is yes, you say it out loud, right? There are 100 questions between this girl's hot and I'd let her kill me that you don't bother speaking.
Right.
You just get to the last one. That's what happened with your friend in Disney. And
I'd let Disney kill me.
And quite frankly, if you say you're going to let somebody run the world, you were saying you would let them kill you. You're putting your life in their hands.
Yeah.
So who wrote that one?
Your friend who wrote I'd say that question was written by your friend who said he would let Disney run the world. That's not right. Is that it? Is that the one? Is that who it was?
I'm saying that you wrote. I'm saying that you wrote this one, and it's not one of your best. That's my guess.
Correct on both counts, because I think this was inspired partially by that. And,
by the friend who would let Disney run the world.
Yeah, and also this has been on the back burner for months because I was like, maybe not this. Maybe next time.
I'll keep thinking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, because you said Kiryu and Majima. You offered that. And it seemed like that was part of the question.
Yeah, that was the direction it was intended to go, but it did not.
Yeah. You tipped a little bit too much foreknowledge of the creative direction of the question.
I thought I was kind of trying to double bluff you there, but it didn't work out.
Oh, I like the double bluffing.
Is it possible to make a competitive multiplayer game completely diegetic to its story?
There have been attempts like that Monday Night Combat game, right? Does not Apex Legends have a story in world?
Isn't like Football Manager technically that because the story is what you're doing? I feel like the Football Manager games are basically that. More or less. Also, like in the, I don't know if this counts, but in the, it's not multiplayer. Never mind.
I wouldn't call Football Manager completely diegetic because you have multiple instances of, say, the same player.
True. That's true, Mike. That's true.
And also, it's not multiplayer.
Right.
So, I kind of.
You asking this question just makes me, just reminds me that my concept for the game Video Ball was really good. And if we'd only had $100 million to shove it down everybody's throat and get it on television.
You want DLC? Put a hat on.
Put a hat on, buddy. People thought that was some irreverent joke, but it's like, how many video games have ever existed that were made to just be part of the world?
Right.
With that as a concept that's actually good. I shouldn't have to explain this out loud on a podcast 10 years later. It's actually good. Like, it's something more people should think about. God darn it. If only I knew a guy who made YouTube videos about video games.
That's right.
And could make a 6-hour-long video that gets millions, like multiple millions of people saying, I wish I could play this game. About stuff like Tokimeki Memorial or Boku no Natsuyasumi. If only I knew such a guy.
Oh my God. Is that where this is going?
Oh, it's going somewhere much better than that. Trust me. You have no idea, Jeffy. Oh, nobody knows. Nobody has any idea.
Speaking of kind of the opposite of that, I think that most multiplayer sportsy games that are offline, they just have a story mode. And so that, I mean, that kind of does it, doesn't it?
No, because that's not part of the multiplayer.
Yeah, so it's like Destiny, for example. Destiny has a full open world.
Hypergun Sport is you play as two players through the maybe I misunderstand, but you play as two players through a circuit, and that's what you do. And they're playing together. They are you can do it single player, but you have an AI player with you then. But you can't do it by yourself. There's technically a second player always. I don't know. Maybe I misunderstand the question somehow.
Well, no, like in Destiny, there's a full giant open world. There's campaigns, there's strikes, there's missions, there's multiplayers, there's modes, there's raids. And then there's also the Crucible, which is the battle arena that is all of the guardians from around the Destiny world. And one of the things about these guardians is you have a ghost, which means, forgive me, the reduction, Destiny fans. One of the things is when you die, you can be cloned and respawned as part of the spawning is like part of the internal logic of the world in the game. So there's the Crucible is the classic Halo style multiplayer where you fight against other people, and it has there are campaigns and tournaments that are like run in the world, and it's like they're made to be sort of parts of the story. Is that not what you mean, Jeffy?
No, that fits. And of course, if you have any corrections to that summation of Destiny lore, please send them to show@insertcredit.com, where Tim will not read them.
I won't read that. I believe it's considered part of the world of the game. It's occasionally even referenced in like quest dialogues or whatever. But you're allowed to just not participate in it if you don't want to play the multiplayer. There are people who obviously don't want to do anything but play the multiplayer. This is very well considered from a product design standpoint. I think honestly it's kind of hacky, and I think that if you're trying to fit a really, really dense, robust, highly enjoyed, prolifically enjoyed, let's rewrite that as enjoyed with prolificacy multiplayer mode. If you're trying to nest that somewhere into a large, meticulously world-built, multi-genre, multi-design video game, it's just always going to feel a little hacky to a guy like me, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, that's time. Who wrote that one?
Is that a dirtbag one? Wait, how many? What's the score so far?
The score right now is Tim. You have 3. Brandon.
No, I mean
has 2.
what's the score in terms of like? Oh, you.
Which
I
ones
thought,
have been?
Yeah, like which one? How many from each have we had?
Oh, I'm not telling you that.
Oh yeah. Well,
if you want to count the cards, you got to do that yourself.
I'm gonna say Patreon dirtbag.
That one was me again.
That was my first choice, but then I second guessed myself.
Interesting.
Man, oh well.
Right.
I should have gone with my gut.
Next one. Has a piano ever been dropped on or near someone in a video game to great effect? Did it make a good noise? If not, what kind of game would this be best in?
Looney
What
Tunes.
would it sound like?
And it would sound like blong.
I mean, Looney Tunes has some pretty good piano drop sound effects you could get inspiration from. Has a piano ever been dropped on or near someone in a video game? I don't think so. Maybe in some WarioWare trash.
I feel like it must have been in some Bugs Bunny game or something.
I taught a carrot. That's what Bugs Bunny's famous
That's
line.
what he says, yeah.
I taught what's up, Doc?
Yeah,
That's his famous phrase, isn't it?
it is. His famous catchphrase.
There's a Roadrunner game, I'm sure that
Death Valley Rally?
yeah.
A couple weeks ago, I was talking about how much I love Wile E. Coyote on this show.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me that at the same time we were having that conversation, the Wile E. Coyote movie was being canceled by Warner Brothers.
Man,
absolutely
you
bonkers.
want to talk about stuff getting deleted from the universe. Now they're deleting it in advance before anyone gets to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the precedent no one dared whisper about. But when people were when digital media versus physical media, people the physical zealots were first getting started, their number one scare tactic was to be like, they're going to start deleting the content after it's released. None of them said anything about content getting deleted before it was released. So it was actually worse than those people ever indicated. It's like, oh God.
They're all getting Day the Clown cried.
Yeah, they're getting Somebody needs to drop a piano on some of those Warner Brothers guys. You know what I mean?
Is that the worst entertainment merger that has ever occurred? I wonder. It feels
Warner Brothers Discovery?
This Warner Brothers thing that's going on?
Yeah.
I think Warner Brothers to AT&T was also pretty bad, putting a telecom company in charge of an entertainment product. I think that's where a lot of this came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's just a continual slide downhill from that sequence of mergers.
Mergers are bad for cool stuff, it turns out.
That's true.
If you're a person who makes cool stuff, it used to be,
Unless it's Disney, in which case I'd let them
That's
kill
right. Then it's
when
fine.
we was kids, it used to be you'd hear people say support small business, right?
Mhm.
But now it's like it's gotten so much more complicated than that, partially, but also a little easier because the small businesses mostly don't exist. Kaboom, blasted, owned, nice. The small businesses are getting eaten and they're being replaced by gigantic businesses. But now it's so much more complicated than that because it's like Disney owns like 60% of all movies that are in
we
theaters.
found a way to get monopolies back, finally.
Yeah. We found a way to make, not Whole Foods. We found a way to make Whole Foods a small business, and then Amazon bought them, right? So it's like, that's creepy, right? We found a way to philosophically get away with calling a place like Whole Foods a small business, and then Amazon bought Whole Foods. And it's like it's very, very it's scary to be a citizen of the capitalistic societies right now.
Dave the Diver was up for some indie game awards, or like awards in the indie game category. And Dave the Diver is a game created by a team that was created within Nexon using all of Nexon's resources by people that work at Nexon.
That's hilarious.
I have so many things to say about the indie label in video games.
It's gotten very strange.
And a podcast about video games is the last place for most of them. Let me tell you, it's just not even for the video game audience.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, some of that stuff, God darn it.
Who wrote that one?
That was a
too stupid for the dirtbag.
Yeah,
because that was
both correct.
Yeah, that was a pretty stupid question.
And the correct answer is that Games Enjoyer posted that. Trade Good responded with a clip of this exact thing happening in Crash Tag Team Racing.
Yeah, there you go.
Of course, Crash Bandicoot would do such.
Crash Tag Team Racing, dropping a piano on someone for their version of the lightning bolt from Mario Kart, right?
Yeah,
basically,
something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
the blue shell's a bit dirty because from game design wise, because it's like, why does it behave like the regular shell if it doesn't follow any of the same rules?
We got two more questions.
It's unclean, Carl.
With most modern video games emphasizing exploration one way or another, does it feel like falling damage should be phased out?
Do they do that? I don't like falling damage very much, except I do appreciate that sometimes there's a pit and there's nothing down there and they need me to be dead. That's okay. Yeah. But it's very funny when like I fall from a 2 big rocks height too high in Uncharted and I'm just like, blah! And they're like, Nathan, Drake, whatever.
One of the funniest things in all of video games is when your character's death scream just gets cut off because or where their death scream keeps going after their limp body has hit the ground.
Yeah,
it's one of the best.
And I love that when it's like I've just jumped like 2 tiles to the left of where I was supposed to jump, and that means I died.
Yeah,
sometimes that's how it happens.
I am all for fall damage in a game that's real good.
Sure.
You know, for example,
or a game that's about it, that where it's relevant to the game.
If I'm playing God darn Elden Ring, go ahead and kill me if I try to jump off a wall down to like a courtyard 12 stories below where I'm at in a level design that is so beautifully, perfectly, articulately meticulous as to be constantly showing me areas I've been to and will go to in the future, and making just to make sure I spatially understand where I am, while also flexing real hard to demonstrate that the levels are so thoughtfully laid out and constructed as to just actually be like places that contain all of this geometry at the same time. Go ahead and kill me if I try to jump down there.
Elden Ring is a comedy, and fall damage is part of the joke.
Yeah, and also a game like Elden Ring, the levels are so considered that all of these, like any fall damage death that happens is like always, almost always in a place where you're like, yeah, I definitely was going to die if I jumped down there. That was definitely a death.
That one's on me.
Yeah.
I like and this is sort of counter to everything I was saying before, but I do like in the Yakuza games where you can jump off a 5-story building and then you fall down to the ground and then you take damage that's like half the amount of one of the regular grunts punching you one time. You just take like the tiniest amount of damage and he goes, "Huh!" And then he stands up and it didn't do anything. It's a little funny.
I really love when Kiryu gets a run through with this sword and he's like, oh well, okay.
I love how canonically in those games he's never killed anyone.
Yes.
But then you get him like taking a broken bottle, stabbing it into a guy's guts, and then kneeing it through his body. That guy's fine.
It's like
he's fine.
The first couple of times you hit a guy with one of those bikes, it's like I've ridden some of those bikes before.
Yeah.
I'm not proud, but I've ridden a couple of them bikes. Didn't steal them.
Yeah.
You know, there were bikes that belonged to people I knew and said, "Would you like to borrow my bike?" And I said, "Yes." And here's the thing you might not know about those J bikes. Is those goddarn things are heavy, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They are so heavy.
I don't know why anybody in Kamurocho would like ride a bike at this point.
Well, you ride it from somewhere else. So where Kabukicho is in Shinjuku it's at kind of a nexus of a bunch of, there's some big, large roads that cross through there, and Kabukicho is kind of nestled between a couple of larger roads. So you would ride your bike down the sidewalk, not the highway, because you're not allowed to ride them on the road for some stupid. They don't have bike lanes on the road. They have very annoying. They have very annoyed pedestrians instead of bike
That's
lanes. Right. But yeah, that's why there's so many bikes there. It does make sense.
Oh, I was just saying because if you are, then it's inevitable that Kiryu is going to smash it over somebody's head.
Yeah,
exactly.
I just rode one of those all around Nara. And the owner of the bike referred to it as Black Thunder because it was all black and it makes your legs feel thunderous after you do so because it had no gears. And I did feel thunderous after that.
Yeah, they're tough bikes to ride, Carl. The frames are just very, very heavy. So what I'm saying is the first couple times you see Kiryu hit a guy with one of them bikes, all I could think was this guy probably is going to survive, but his life is ruined.
Yeah.
Like completely ruined. So in that light, something like fall damage does seem a little bit outside the realm of escapism. But so my answer to the fall damage question is, it is so possible for a game to earn it that this is again the repetitive random battles things. It's so possible. It's so possible for a game to earn it so hard the way Elden Ring does with environments like, I'm thinking Stormvale Castle in particular. Yeah. It's so possible to earn it so hard that when it feels bad, it feels quadruply bad. It feels 10,000% worse than it should. When it's relevant, it's hot. And when it's not, it just feels like the stupidest, like, why is this here sort of thing. Like Super Mario 64, you could just, you could do a butt stomp after falling from the top of a level, and then Mario would always survive and take no damage. Right? His
butt's invincible.
But then when they released the Rumble Pack version in Japan that added Rumble Pack functionality, they took that out.
Oh, that's bad.
Wait, did they take it out? Or did they just take out the fact that you regain you used to be able to just jump in water in Super Mario 64, and then when you swim to the surface, Mario's oxygen and the life refill at the same time. And apparently Miyamoto got really upset that the game shipped that way, and they took that out. That's not even.
I think that's it.
So in the Rumble Pack version there, like, they fixed the health thing.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. But it's like, sometimes fall damage just seems like an unnecessary injection of realism to a game. And in those cases, maybe you got to do something about it.
Who wrote that one?
I think that was a pretty good question. So I think that's a dirtbag question.
I think that's a Jaffe question, personally, that went a little astray.
That is from the dirtbag, from Jormandor.
Tim wins.
Double D-bag, DB! Oh!
Final question. How would you describe and explain Bangai-O to your mom?
Do I have to?
I think in this scenario you do.
Is she going to die if I don't describe it to her?
I think you're going to die if you don't describe it to her.
I mean, I'm going to answer this question in a general sense. My mom doesn't play video games. When I tried to show her a photograph of my apartment in 2012 to say, look, I got this apartment in Oakland, she just did this. She just closed her eyes and waved the phone away. I was like, I don't do the phones.
Wow.
Right? Like, I don't understand those phones. Don't.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, and then like, she just wouldn't look at the phone. You know, she thinks I'm homeless. Like, she literally thinks I'm homeless, which is funny. You know, until you actually occupy my brain and the exact shape of what she thinks about this stuff. However, she uses a phone now and she has Facebook. She's got her babies. She's got multiple grandchildren, many of them. So she communicates with them on Facebook and via text. So even she's become a phone person, right? She's become a phone person. And as far as I know, my mom has had a knee replacement in her life, but she never had a lobotomy.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, I could explain Bangai-O to my mom. It would take longer than the amount of time we have to do this, but were it a legal requirement, were representatives of the IRS and the USMC and the LAPD present,
Disney Corporation.
The Disney Corporation lording over them all, were they all present, guns drawn? Explain Bangai-O to your mom so that she actually understands it, and they have a polygraph technician there on hand to gauge the truth value of her yes or no answer. I could do it. She's not an idiot. She's just my mom.
Yeah,
she just doesn't play video games.
I think my mom plays video games without realizing it because she plays Words with Friends and
WWF
and some other things like
It's
that.
basically Bangai-O.
Yeah, why not?
She knows within, I'd say, about 50% accuracy what I do for a living, and it could be explained to her, but it would take a lot of time, and I don't think she would remember it the next day.
Yeah, that's not a requirement.
I think she'd be able to understand it during the moment. But there's a lot of steps that are involved. Like when I have to tell my mom about how to do certain things on the computer, she has never understood what a folder is, what a file is, what downloading means, etc. And those things have to be. I tried explaining them, but it's better to dance around them because then we can get to the result that we want faster. And
yeah.
So I think there might be some of that involved in this.
So a lot of this propensity that people feel to ask the sort of how would you explain this to your mom question. It is a good kickstart for a lot of more granular game design related discussions, right? So like asking something like Bangai-O, is it just Bangai-O? Is that the one? It's not Bangai-O Spirits.
Just Bangai-O.
Just Bangai-O. Okay. So like part of like the reason why Bangai-O it forms like sort of what feels like the mother of all, how would you explain this to your mom, video game related questions, is Bangai-O is such a game designery video game, right? And it's not it's such a
it's ultimately about math.
Yeah. It's such a game that feels like the product of a rapid prototyping environment is what it feels like, which is a kind of what we used to call game jams before they were public. It's before they were something people did for fun. It's something that feels very much like a textbook for teaching college freshmen what game design is, is what it really feels like. So it's like if you were to explain it to your mom, or if you were to have a lecture about Bangai-O, basically you would have to, if you want to teach the big ideas, the pillars, you would put risk reward. You'd write the words risk/reward on the whiteboard or the blackboard, since it's your mom and we're in a room with a chalkboard, like she remembers from the 1930s. So it's you would write the words risk reward, and you would say, in traditional shooting games, the player flies an airplane. They're a lone pilot facing an enemy armada, and if they take the enemies, the player is historically very frail. It does not behoove one hit will kill the player, and they'll need to spend another quarter. Without having to explain what hitboxes are. Hitboxes is part 2. 5 minutes later, you would be like, so around the time Bangai-O was in development for the Sega Dreamcast and the Nintendo 64, or whichever way around, the Nintendo 64 and the Sega Dreamcast. Around the time Bangai-O was in development for the Nintendo 64, the current generation of shoot 'em up game designers, started to play with the idea of forcing the player into riskier situations for larger rewards. So in other words, the player is very frail. It behooves the player to remain distant from the enemies. But in Bangai-O, your attacks are much stronger when you're closer to the enemy. The more enemies you're closer to, the more powerful you are. So it forces you to play risky. And then you just have to explain that. And then you can get into what hitboxes and hurtboxes are, right? So it kind of, I don't have time to give the full lecture here.
That's time. But yeah, it's doable is the point. You can make it out of concepts any intelligent person can understand.
Yeah, you'd have to make like a whole 3 to 5 hour YouTube video for your mom to watch, basically. But it could be done.
And she wouldn't want to, but you'd make her.
Well, I think you could make just about any 3 to 5.
I think she'd probably find it interesting by the end of it.
My mom listens to this show every week, so it's doable.
That's true.
I think you could just about make a 3 to 5 hour YouTube video about any video game that someone's never heard of be interesting the whole time to a person. I think it's possible.
Yeah.
Any longer than 5 hours, though, it's a little difficult.
Who wrote that one?
Is that,
I'm guessing Jaffe again.
didn't we get all 4 Jaffies already? I think we did.
Shoot, did we?
I'm just usually not paying attention during the solution part.
I'm going to say it's Jaffe's.
I don't know, man.
Are you folding?
Well,
then?
Tim, here's the thing. You win either way with the number of points we got.
It's true.
You have 2 more points than me, so it doesn't matter. So just choose whatever.
Oh, well, again, you're asking me to
I know.
be probably wrong here.
Yeah, and that's it. But in this case, you'll still be right because you will have won.
What did you say, Brandon? You said it's Jaffe?
I said Jaffe.
Let's just go Jaffe. Let's go for it.
That was from the dirt bag.
Yeah,
All right.
The fish.
that was definitely not Jaffe because I never really heard Jaffe talk about Bangai-O.
You have won the first part of the show, but it's time for us to go on to our lightning round. This week we're playing Potpourri. For this one, we're just straight up doing Jeopardy. I have taken all of these questions from Jeopardy on the NES. So make a noise if you know the answer. I'm going to pose an answer, and you have to see if you can answer it in the style of Jeopardy and get the points.
God, these questions are all from like 1985 or something.
88 or so, probably.
Here we go. Of moron, idiot, and imbecile, the one having the lowest IQ.
Oh.
Noise.
Brandon.
Imbecile. What is imbecile?
Incorrect. Tim?
Shoot.
What is moron?
Incorrect.
It's idiot.
What is an idiot?
It's because idiot has an actual legal
Dang it.
definition.
Dang it.
The Gobi Desert accounts for 25% of this communist country.
Embarrassing. Noise.
Brandon.
This is China.
Incorrect.
Shoot. That's embarrassing. I got a D in geography, so it's my excuse.
Yeah, the geography questions are always tough.
Wait, what? The Gobi Desert?
I don't have to... yes, the Gobi Desert accounts for 25% of this communist country.
Russia. What is Russia? What is the USSR?
The answer was Mongolia.
I was close.
You were close, but
It was
can't
nearby.
count. Latest addition to Disney's Florida Empire.
What is Disney World?
Incorrect.
Yeah, I don't care. That's the fun part.
What is Disneyland?
The answer was Epcot.
Oh, I went there. I went there when I was a young child.
Wait a minute. So this is Jeopardy on the NES where the questions are multiple choice.
Yes.
By the way, yeah.
But
So,
I'm not giving you that.
you're giving
That's
the
fair.
multiple choices. All right.
Washington columnist who G. Gordon Liddy volunteered to kill.
I don't remember this at all.
I'm sorry, that was Jack Anderson. Yeah.
Just keep going with these.
This American sitcom was adapted from the British TV series Steptoe and Son.
I don't know.
Steptoe and Son.
Just say I don't know, so this will be over faster. If you don't know, there's no reason to think about it.
What is The Office? It was
Sanford
present
and Son.
in the
What is
future.
Sanford and Son?
Correct. What is Sanford? 1 point to Tim.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, I don't know. No step.
I was trying to think of
Steptoe.
who and Son, but I couldn't remember.
He was to Merv Griffin as Ed McMahon is to Johnny Carson.
Oh.
Shoot.
Who was Big Boy Charles?
Incorrect.
Who should have been Cab Calloway? That would have been cool.
The answer is Arthur Treacher.
Oh yeah. Hey, why not?
Yeah. Recent Mickey Rooney and Ann Miller Broadway hit.
I like it to baseball. That's Mickey. That's Mickey Rooney. I decided.
No.
What is Here's Mickey?
It's What is Sugar Baby?
As we all know.
Jill Gerard played this space adventurer in the recent TV version.
What is Lost in Space?
Nope.
Dang it.
Wait, what was the question? Jill Gerard played who?
I meant
Played
Forbidden
this
Planet.
space adventurer in the recent TV version.
I meant Forbidden Planet. I don't know if that was also wrong though.
What is Forbidden Planet?
Who is Buck Rogers?
BR.
Her recent bestsellers are Salvador and Democracy.
God. Who Cares? Who cares? That's technically answering in the form of a question.
It is a question. Yeah, it is a question, but it's
who is Hillary Rodham Clinton?
It's Joan Didion.
Jay did. I know.
Last one. One of his latest books is an expose of John Belushi.
God, you're gonna expose.
Who's Jim Belushi?
That's a John. Who is John Belushi? I think is the correct answer.
Who is Bob Woodward? Tim, congratulations. You got 1 point to Brandon 0. You're the winner of this episode.
Did you like how I got the Mongolia one wrong on purpose because I just thought it would be funnier after talking about Mongolia?
I did think that was funny, yes.
Good.
I know where all the world's deserts are, okay? God.
Yeah.
What is Russia?
Does anyone have any recommendations this week?
No.
Sure.
Check out some cheese.
Yeah, oh yeah.
My recommendation is about milks.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you can use my part about milk from the beginning.
Okay.
Great.
If you're going to drink milk, drink the whole milk. Don't just drink part of it, yidget. If you think skim milk is healthier, get off your goddarned high horse. The fat in milk is pretty good. It's not 1987 anymore. We know that fat is not the bad part of most of the stuff that has fat in it. We know that now. The fat in milk is good for you. I mean, don't drink it all the time because it also has lactose, which is just sugar. But if you're going to drink milk, drink the goddarn whole milk. Which whole? The cow's utter whole.
Nice.
Right. God darn it. But almond milk, notice I didn't have any adjectives on front of that when I said almond milk. Almond milk is pretty good on some cereals. Honey Nut Cheerios with almond milk, not bad.
I'm going to recommend the RoboDoc series of documentaries. It is a 4-part, roughly 5-hour long documentary about the making of RoboCop, which is very fun. It's a good documentary. It's cool to watch. Your mileage may vary on whether you want to support them with money because they did do a thing where they split the special features across regions so that maybe you would hopefully buy them both or something. But that's weird. But they put all of the special features on the back of the box. And then they are not on the disc, which is it's a little weird. It's a little not cool feeling. However, the documentary itself, very fun to watch. They got Paul Verhoeven in there. They got Peter Weller being just like a wild man.
P. Well's nuts, dude.
You get to hear from the trainer who trained him to move, who was like a mime guy, a mime like expert champion. He was like the dean at Juilliard or something. I mean, it's pretty fun. You find out why he's goes into a fencer's stance when he's shooting his gun. RoboCop. It's an enjoyable thing all around.
Yeah, I've heard it's full of tasty things.
Yeah,
I heard something about an Oreo. Is that in there?
There's an Oreo bit that's pretty funny.
I want to watch this. So I just want to say that it pleases me in the year 2023 to hear a person say there's a documentary that's about RoboCop that's 4 or 5 hours long and say the running time as like a sort of positive. That's how long I want documentaries containing exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes footage. That's about how long I think like well-made, produced documentaries about cool stuff should be.
Yeah, it's broken up into 4 episodes, but they're like not really. If it weren't, you wouldn't notice.
You would, everything's made.
It is edited and created in such a way that it's pretty breezy. You don't really notice the time going by. There are many documentaries I have watched which are like, come on. Like just like mic this person or light this person, or edit this together in a way that makes it interesting. So this is the way this is edited. It's similar to how like the Toys That Made Us is edited, except not precious or annoying. So it'll do a thing where
I made
a guy
it like 4 minutes into a Toys That Made Us episode.
Yeah, they're rough, but this will do a thing that series also did, but it's done in a way that's better, where someone will tell a story and then it'll cut to the person that story is about going, "Yep." And then it'll cut back to telling the story, and it's kind of funny. Yeah. And you don't necessarily you know that person wasn't saying yep about that, but you get the sense that
Or maybe they were.
They might have been.
Yeah.
You get the sense that they had been asked and didn't dispute that story, because there are times when stories are disputed and then they cut between the dispute. So it's, I don't know, I think it's pretty good. It's fun. I learned a bunch of stuff about it. There were some things that I just never noticed or thought about because the movie was so well made that I didn't consider certain elements that were very good, which isn't something everyone would have. But I just, and there were parts I didn't analyze where later I was like, if I had analyzed it, I would have liked that even more.
It's actually worth piggybacking on this to say, if you keep in mind exactly who's watching this, they're listening to this show. If there's a possibility someone is listening to this who has not seen RoboCop, right? So you should definitely
check out RoboCop.
Definitely watch.
Yeah, check out RoboCop.
Definitely check out RoboCop, and if it's one of the coolest things you've ever seen in your life, check out the documentary about it afterward. And have a very different experience from the experience I had, which was seeing RoboCop as an 8-year-old. Who because it was advertised during cartoons. Like it was just advertised during the cartoons. Check out RoboCop. Oh, he's here to defend the city. RoboCop. Oh yeah, in theaters now.
It's really funny.
It's like, okay,
because they do have a section of the documentary toward the end where all the actors and people involved in the production are like, people are always coming up to me saying, I watched this when I was 8, my dad took me, and they're like horrified, like why would your dad take you to see this movie? But they weren't fully aware of the advertising campaign and how it was on during cartoons.
It was all over everything for kids. It was on comic books. It was just everywhere.
That was a little later. Once it had started to become popular, they were immediately like, well, we got to make a comic book out of this now.
Get more kids. Well, no, I'm talking like advertisements for the movie RoboCop on the backs of comic books.
Oh, right.
It was everywhere, and it was being just blasted at children, and it's kind of like wild because it was Paul Verhoeven wanted to make like. It wasn't exactly like an Orson Welles Touch of Evil moment, where with Touch of Evil, Orson Welles asked the producer for like the worst script he had. Right? He's like, I want to make the worst movie you have, and then they tossed it to him to like do a rewrite, and then he ended up directing and also co-starring in it. It's a wild set of things surrounding that. I'm a big fan of the movie Touch of Evil. I recently went to the Film Forum here in NYC to watch an old 35 millimeter print of it. It was a very beautiful experience.
I was trying to watch that movie streaming, and it was 0.5 seconds out of sync audio wise.
Can't do it. Yeah, can't do it. It's such that's such a good one, dude. That movie, but it's like it's. I feel like RoboCop was there was actually a similar-ish. I haven't watched the documentary where perhaps this is
I can tell you what it was.
But I know he was like, this is an ugly, stupid story, and I'm gonna give it the movie it deserves, but I'm gonna do this here, and I'm gonna do this like this here, and he ended up creating something that made what he thought and what actually is, in hindsight, a pretty interesting statement about movies, crime, violence, politics. It's just it's a rat's nest of interesting statements. All his movies were, but
Well, I'll give you a little preview, which is he's got a Miyamoto's wife of his own.
Oh, I bet he does. I know he does.
Yeah.
I know he does.
Linda Verhoeven.
That's what led to him taking RoboCop, because he tossed it in the bin and then she read it while he was going swimming. Yeah. And she was like, I think you could do something with this.
Yeah. And he ended up being like, what does she mean? And then being like, oh, I think I can do this. I want to watch that RoboCop documentary.
It's good. It's called RoboDoc.
RoboDoc, yeah.
Oh,
it's on my radar over here. I think anybody listening to this who has not watched. Okay, so I think if you've never seen RoboCop, Total Recall, and Starship Troopers, you should consider that. You should watch all of those, and then watch a documentary about RoboCop. Is what I would recommend.
Yeah.
Some people say Showgirls as well. And Basic Instinct can also, or not Basic, Basic Instinct is another Verhoeven. I think those are also interesting Verhoeven.
They're interesting in a slightly different
genre
way.
Explorations. But I think if you want to watch the Verhoeven sci-fi trilogy, you will have an extremely delightful time if you've never seen those. If you're kind of new to building a film vocabulary, they are. It's just a precious experience of mine to have seen all three of those in the theater, like opening weekend, not being prescient at all of them being the same director or having any common thread. Starship Troopers is in a way a movie. This is a little bit of a spoiler, but it's basically a movie about fascism, but maybe not in the way you think. And there's stuff.
Yeah.
All over these movies.
A lot of his movies are about fascism.
Yeah.
His movies are basically always a little bit about fascism and a little bit about, or a lot bit about the Christ story, the story of Christ. He loves putting Jesus in there. It's some way or another.
Yeah, and he's made some newer movies that are his newer
way
films
more on
are
the
also,
nose with that.
The older you get, the less you try to sugarcoat or hide stuff. I also think his movie Hollow Man is all right. It's not a Verhoeven classic.
Yeah,
it's not exactly a return to form.
I can't
but
get on with that one for whatever reason. I tried to watch it.
We're in a bit of a mainstream movie desert right now, you know?
Yeah.
You have to look pretty far outside the mainstream. There's still, I immediately reject anybody who says there's no good stuff anymore. It's all comic book movies or whatever, because there's so much good stuff. Just don't look at the mainstream stuff. But I do agree with the point that the mainstream does lack cool stuff.
Yeah,
in so much as RoboCop was mainstream. Total Recall was mainstream. These were just normal movies, and they're such feasts for the eyeballs and imaginations if you watch them now.
A little tidbit that I liked in the documentary was someone, I forget who it was one of the producers, I think, saying that in the 80s we were very good at turning a B movie into into a blockbuster. Like we would take what would genre-wise be a B movie and make it be a blockbuster.
And you just extract like the story beats from it, and it's a pretty lean outline for something like RoboCop, and they make it work 1,000,000%.
And it's also pretty interesting to think about there being a time when RoboCop didn't exist, when Indiana Jones didn't exist, all that. Like you had to make these movies first, and then you could reference them forever. And I feel like we're not right now making a whole lot of RoboCops. We're making very interesting, very good films that are sometimes quieter, sometimes louder, but we're not making brand new cultural touchstones as often.
Yeah. I mean, there's still good / great stuff just kind of popping out of the woodwork.
Absolutely.
If you just look for it. But it's like, man, RoboCop is so good in terms of just the most boring, basic, mundane aspects of filmmaking are just so alive in that movie. Just the boring, like regular static shot staging is just like interesting. Like it's just everything's just interesting to look at. It never stops being incredibly ultra interesting to look at that movie.
You as a viewer never think about what's that suit made of?
Yeah.
What is it made of?
Although I'm sure I can get the question answered in a specific place if I look for it.
In the documentary, you can find all out about that. And I assumed it was some sort of like plastic polymer,
whatever the Marvel costumes are made out of.
But it's actually more foam than anything. It's
really
and it doesn't move, it doesn't deform. But basically, it got ruined every day, and they had to fix it up every day.
That's very funny. That's
wild stuff.
I mean, and that's how they ended up developing the scripts for RoboCop 2 and 3.
That's right.
Which are basically RoboCop is going like laying on a workbench for a whole movie, twice. 2 movies in a row.
Yeah,
that's a bit of an exaggeration, but
RoboCop 2 and 3, you can go ahead and skip those.
Yeah, but you know what? That 2014 RoboCop is okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
As again, it's slim pickings these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we say 2014, they made a pretty good remake of RoboCop. It's a better remake of RoboCop than they would make in 2024 if they tried it again. Let's leave it at that, right? I mean, I don't know. That guy who plays the RoboCop, is that Joel Kinnaman? Is that who plays the RoboCop?
I don't remember.
Yes, it's Joel Kinnaman.
It is, right? Yeah, it is Joel Kinnaman. I don't know why I had to ask that. He's starring in a new movie directed by John Woo.
Nice.
That's coming out in a couple of weeks called Silent Night. Have you heard of this, Brandon?
I knew he was making something.
It's a completely dialogue-free action movie.
I'll watch it.
And it's about a man who gets his throat injured on Christmas Eve and has to get revenge on the people who broke his daughter's toy or whatever. Like, I don't know what it is. I don't know exactly what the plot is about. I know it's a bit of a John Wick thing. It's explicitly a Christmas thing. It's explicitly an ultra-violent Christmas thing that is rated R, but does not involve a big-name actor playing a funny parody of Santa Claus, which it seems like we have 42 of now. Yeah. And it's directed by John Woo in his triumphant return to Hollywood.
All right.
You got to pay me even if I do a bad job.
Better have some slow motion devs.
Man's been through some
That's
stuff.
That's a joke, but I truly hope they're in there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm pretty sure they will be. I think John Woo's got to be back.
I think you'll get at least 2 turtle doves.
But also, nice. 2 turtle doves. Very good.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, technically, it would be 22 turtle doves because you get 2 each day of the 12 days. Yeah, of the 11 days. But also, I just have to point out that if you see the poster for this Silent Night movie at your local multiplex when you go to see a movie this weekend or whatever, or next weekend, and you will see that the top of the poster says in huge, big, bold letters, "From the producer of John Wick," is what you're going to see on there. John Woo's name is real little down at the bottom, and I understand that, John Wick is a bigger name than John Woo. In the year 2023, I guess.
Alphabetically first.
Yeah, it is alphabetically first. But and it's just a producer. So the producer of John Wick said, let's just get John Woo instead of let's do something like John Woo, sort of. Yeah. There's a little more to the John Wick universe than we love John Woo. But Brandon, did you watch that John Wick 4?
Not yet. I'm waiting for it to hit the streamos.
Yeah, man. Oh, man. It. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of people who got
Donnie Yen in it.
There's a lot of opinions floating around about John Wick 4 being quote unquote not as good as John Wick 3 or not as good as John Wick 2 or not as good. It's like people, I really like that people have their own rankings. I don't even have a John Wick ranking. I'm just like, I like them all. I don't care. But John Wick 4 is real cool. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of Donnie Yen in there. There's a whole lot.
I like watching him do stuff.
Yeah, and I mean Donnie Yen is on the level of he's on the level of Mark Dacascos in John Wick 3.
Yeah.
So they did it again. They brung a guy out, and I really liked that JW4. Really liked it.
A lot of good movies to watch. Yeah. I've got some recommendations of my own.
Yes.
First of all, I've got another podcast called 52 Pickup that I do with Gita Jackson. It comes out once every 2 weeks where we go through one of my favorite comic book series. It's an aftermath production. Go ahead and check that out. If you enjoyed this or any other episode of Insert Credit, please rate and review our show wherever and however you can. I've been looking through those reviews. They're all really nice. They warm my heart. You can also support us on patreon.com/insertcredit, where you could become a patron to submit your own questions like the ones you heard here, or listen to monthly bonus episodes, sometimes even more frequent. If you'd like to sponsor our show with an advertisement or a personal message, you could do that at show@insertcredit.com. Sometimes you can sneak a question in through our community at forums.insertcredit.com, but don't count on it. Find videos of these episodes on youtube.com/insertcreditshow, wishlist Demon School on Steam, and this episode is edited by Esper Quinn with original music by Kurt Feldman. I'm Alex Jaffe.
I'm Frank Cifaldi.
I'm Tim Rogers.
I'm Brandon Sheffield.
And Esper, please put the best piano crashing sound effect you can find right here.
You know what would be funny to do?
Yeah.
It would be funny to get Frank to record I'm Frank Cifaldi and then just put that in at the end of this episode. Like, just put him in the rotation.
Yeah, you know what? Esper, grab Frank's I'm Frank Cifaldi from a previous episode and just put that in there at the end.
People would be like, what? Was he silent the whole time?
Yeah.
He was just smoking weed.
Did Tim and Brandon just talk over him again?
Just have it at the very beginning as well.
Yeah.